And then I had to check out GCW because of that Matt Cardona match. And I will say Nick Gage is very good at playing to his audience, but playing to a mainstream audience is a skill that he does not have yet. Because he's used to wrestling as a hardcore babyface, and you could tell because he's trying to psych up the crowd, and it's like, dude, you're the heel.
Well, here's the thing, though. I think the only reason why Cardona got thrown into that spot is because of Moxley.
Yeah, probably, but
well, the thing is, though, it was supposed to be Moxley doing all this stuff, not Cardona. Because Moxley showed up at a show with Nick Gage. It was a GCW show, and showed up and everything, and out of nowhere turned him around and did his DDT on Nick Gage on the glass ring. Well, what's happened since then is Moxley's been at home because he had a kid. So if he's staying at home taking care of his wife and kid, while since he's been born and everything else, somebody needs to fill in that void. And who's the next biggest thing? Cardona.
I don't know.
I know that doesn't really make sense. I know that doesn't really make sense. I'm just going off of what I gather from my perspective. I could be wrong.
I think Cardona wanted to, again, legitimize himself to the indie base because he has that reputation of being the WWE guy.
But the thing is, though, is after he did that one thing when he came in, that before they had the big match, he came in and attacked him, and he left. He's trying to tell everybody he's not fucking Zack Ryder. He's fucking Matt fucking Cardona.
Yeah, and then in the match, he proceeds to do the woo woo woo.
Well, just trying to fucking piss them off still. But
yeah, I know.
It's like people need to realize that they're not the same people once they leave WWE. So it's like when he's WWE, yeah, he was Zack Ryder. It's all about the woo woo woo. You know it. Now he's just Matt fucking Cardona, always ready. He's him. So it's like you gotta.
Except he wrestles and acts just like Zack Ryder.
Right, but I think right now though he's got the chance to be more aggressive than working WWE style, which is gonna go do this, and here you go, finish the match.
I think personally, Cardona would have been better off going to a place like Ring of Honor if he could have. I don't know if they were. Because Matt Cardona, like, let's face it, I don't think he's ever going to be like a hardcore wrestler full time. He might do a match here and there.
Well, no, he's not going to be a hardcore wrestler, no.
Right. So I believe his best general, like, if he wants to get rid of the WWE stench, which, I mean, this is just my personal opinion. If I was a former WWE wrestler, I'd want to, like, mooch off my name value. But, I mean, if you want to get a reputation as a good independent wrestler, then go somewhere like Japan or Ring of Honor.
But he's making good money as it is with the podcast, Major Wrestling Figure Podcast.
True. So why do you have to go and get bled like a pig?
Like I just said, he's trying to show that Zack Ryder's just a pussy and Matt Cardona's real.
and yet deathmatch wrestling is obviously, I don't want to say fake, but it's obviously
don't say that word.
No, it's not fake. I get it, because they're actually going through glass, but
and light bulbs and bricks and cinder blocks and bowling balls and fire and all that stuff.
Yeah, but if that was a legitimate fight happening there, somebody would fucking die.
I've seen John Moxley get a sawzall to his head.
Again, like, so now we're going to...
I was just going to say, I'll say this last one, and then we'll move on. I've seen somebody get a weed eater to his stomach.
Why?
Because it's deathmatch wrestling. It's CZW.
Just
Combat Zone Wrestling. That's
just why.
Do you not realize that every hardcore company out there, GCW, which used to be Jersey Championship Wrestling, Combat Zone Wrestling, Extreme Pro Wrestling, XPW back in the day. Do you know who they all based their companies off of?
I mean, I want to say ECW, but
Here you go.
ECW had legitimate wrestlers too, though. I shouldn't say legitimate. I mean like the classic like Ring of Honor style.
Okay, but all these hardcore companies based their style off of ECW.
Yeah,
And when
except, and I'm quoting Cornette here, it's like you have apparently, I know this is true with CZW, you have CZW guys and like ECW guys are like at each other's throats because the ECW guys are like, you guys are taking it too far.
Well,
and I'm sorry if Ian Rotten says you're taking it too far, you're probably taking it too far. Ian Rotten.
Who?
Ian Rotten.
Yeah, the guy who did a Taipei death match.
Exactly.
Yeah, the guy who's. I'm sorry, I forgot about that company. IWA Mid-South.
Oh yeah.
The one who does. The one that has King of the Deathmatch tournaments for men and women.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of which, I saw. Okay, so and here's the other. So this is where I think Nick Gage, as a performer, is a little short-sighted because he agrees to do certain things. I saw a match he did with Tessa Blanchard.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh God, no. I don't know as a performer why you would agree to do that, because there's one of two possibilities for him. Either he goes into that match and doesn't do his usual stick because it's a woman, and then it's obviously like, well, okay, like you lose a little bit of your legitimacy because he's obviously holding back for a girl, whether he wins or not. Or he does his usual shtick, and then he's the guy who sliced a woman's forehead open with a pizza cutter. Neither one of which is good for him. Which the match, it was supposed to be a no rules match, but it was not nearly as brutal as what he normally does, which I kind of figured would be the case because I don't think he's a monster per se, and he loses the match. I've yet to watch a Nick Gage match where he wins.
I've seen plenty of them.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying. I've only watched 3 of his matches, but he lost all.
Let's say, obviously, he has won. I mean, he was the world champion for GCW.
Yeah, and then he dropped the belt to Matt Cardona.
Yeah.
Which again, if I'm Nick Gage, I'm thinking like, why the fuck am I losing to Zack Ryder? I'm king of the death match, and we're having a death match. I should obliterate him. If you want to drop the title, have a legit wrestling match.
Well, he's not king of the death match. He's not king of the death match no more. Matt Cardona is.
That's what I'm saying.
I know. Guys, where did you hear me say Matt Cardona, king of the death match? Where did you hear me say that?
Yeah. So, like, I guess my point is, if I'm booking for GCW, I'm thinking, like, okay, we want Cardona to get the belt, have him come in, but have it be, like, a legit wrestling match. And then you can have a legitimate feud where all Nick Gage has to do is say, like, hey, you think you're hot shit, but this is GCW. Face me in a death match.
Right.
But you could book that out for months of Cardona just dodging the death match. And then finally...
I know, but with independent wrestling, you can't do that.
Sure you can.
Now, if you got one show a month...
Sure you can.
Okay, but you also got to think that, well, but here's the other thing, though. There's social media.
I understand.
So
you have Cardona talk shit on Twitter, and you get the fans enraged.
But that's the thing, you got social media to where you post all your promos and everything else to build up the match from this show to this show. You actually do it. I get what you're saying by trying to avoid it and everything. But again, I'm going to pull back my statement that I said a little bit ago. He's trying to get rid of the Zack Ryder thing and make himself as Matt Cardona, and he's real.
Right, I get it, but here's my point. In GCW, anyway, he's a heel.
You're right. Everywhere else,
so be a heel. What's the number one thing fans of death matches will hate more than anything? That's a WWE PG guy. Steer into the skid, man. And you can, okay, like let's say I'm just thinking long term here. Let's say Matt Cardona wants to legitimize himself as a deathmatch guy. Okay, you come in as a heel, you make them hate you, You dodge the death match against their. I mean, I assume Nick Gage is the number one babyface right now in GCW. And then finally, you have that death match. And if you want to legitimize Cardona, have him beat Gage in a death match, but only after they've built this up. And then it's worth it. You know what I'm saying? Then it's worth it.